Hey guys, I got a question for you. How often do you think about retirement? Does it seem too far away for you to even consider it? Or are you like me and you can seriously see it approaching whether you like it or not? Well, in this video, we're going to take a look at attitudes towards retirement, in particular, my attitude towards retirement. And I have to admit, I'm pretty undecided about what to think about it. So I'd be happy to hear what you think and happy to hear your thoughts about it. So let's talk. Retirement, something I never thought that I would face. And like a lot of things when you're younger, you just don't see it coming your way until it arrives. Well, I'm 60, and although I'm not going to reach full retirement age until I'm 67, there's a lot of folks in my line of work that think that they're going to get out and retire before they're 50. Well, I missed that boat, and that's kind of the result of having kids later in life. But actually, it wasn't that long ago that I really thought that I would just work until I couldn't work any longer. I didn't really see a problem with it. But as the years go on and life events take their toll on you physically, mentally, and financially, we all have to realize that at some point, yeah, I guess you have to walk out the door, and you don't want to be walked out the door and told not to come back. That's really not the way you want to end things. So here I am, starting to think about how to make retirement happen. So for some, of course, they have pensions, and there's a lot of people in the hospital that are union represented, the nurses and whatnot, and they put in 30 years, and they retire with a pretty reasonable pension, from what I understand. I don't have that sort of thing. I have a couple of small pensions, and it probably would pay enough to cover my cell phone bill in retirement. But the bulk of my retirement survival is going to depend on a 401k. And if you've been paying attention, that's pretty downright depressing right now. Most of us have seen at least a good 20% drop in our 401ks, and probably for some people even more. And who knows what the future is going to bring with that. I mean, one thing is for certain, though, no one knows with Social Security what's going to happen with that over the next few years. And by the time I hit full retirement age in 7 years, who knows if it's really going to be there or not. It really depends upon who's in the White House and who's in Congress at the time. So, what do you do? Well, I mean, there's a lot of financial gurus that are on YouTube and on the internet, and a lot of them just seem to tell you that you have to have $1 million. And if you don't have $1 million, you're just not going to survive in retirement. And maybe that's true. I don't know. My question is just how many people actually reach that benchmark of getting $1 million to survive on. I mean, in my case, I mean, my house is going to be paid off very soon. That's probably really good news. And to be honest, neither of my kids are college bound at this point. My son, he's 21, and he's got a full time job with a power company. And they will pay for college if he decides that he wants to go to college at some point. My daughter's graduating high school this year. She has just hated school. I mean, she has hated since middle school. She has just hated every day going to school. She wants to take a break. I think that's probably a good idea because to just go to college at this point would probably be a waste of time for her until she figures out what exactly she's going to do. Um, I never thought strongly about encouraging kids to go to college after school. I mean, if they were in school and they were successful and they had an aptitude towards something and they really voiced strongly that they wanted to, become a teacher or a nurse or a lawyer or whatever, then you're going to have to go to college. And that's just the reality of it. But if you really don't know what you're going to do, then I've never really pushed it. So financially, for me right now, I don't have kids to put through college. That may change, you never know. But I've always encouraged anybody that I've talked to that if you're going to go to college, try to find somebody else to pay for it, whether it's through a scholarship or through an employer. Um, but anyway, right now it doesn't look like I'm going to be paying for kids to go to college. Currently my job is an NP in the emergency department. And without a doubt, I'm the oldest dude there. There's no white haired people anywhere in the hospital that I can tell unless some of them are coloring their hair. And I think that that's a real testament to the desire and expectation for so many people to just get out of the workforce early, to just have an early exit. I mean, to be really honest with you, I'm afraid of leaving. I mean, as much as I know that I could find a ton of things to do in retirement, I'm afraid to lose the security of a real steady paycheck. And, my health is good, knock on wood. I can still physically and mentally do the job. In fact, in some ways, it's a lot more gratifying doing the job right now when you're older. I mean, I can relate to almost everybody. I mean, I've been where they've been when you're younger, and I'm a real contemporary for some of the older patients that come in. I can relate to them. I can at least talk about things that I remember as a kid that they remember as a young adult. So there's a lot of common ground there, and it makes my interactions with patients a lot easier and a lot more enjoyable. The thing is, though, I'll admit that after a 10 or 12-hour shift at work, I mean, I'm tired. And I know I was tired, back working long shifts, even in my 30s and 40s, but it seems as though it takes a little longer to rebound from it than it used to. Um, I remember coming across just a month or two ago a guy on YouTube that he's attempting to retire with 500,000 in his 401k, and he's 59, so he's before Social Security or any of that. And I wish this guy all the luck in the world, but if I were him, I think I would be awake at night, scared to death, wondering if my 401k is going to tank and then force me to go back to work again. So, I guess the question really is like, unless you have a few $1,000,000 in the bank, I mean, do you ever really feel confident about retiring? So I'd like to think that, in retirement, I could earn a few dollars, doing something, I don't know, freelance writing or teaching or doing like expert legal reviews. But, that's not a guaranteed income by any means. Uh, right now, I'll be honest, I've got a pretty good deal where I work. I'm considered full time, but I work at an academic medical center, and full time is less than 40 hours a week for sure. And it's because there's an expectation of teaching and other scholarly work that we do. So uh, when I was hired into my current position, which was about 12 years ago, my salary was significantly above the average for an NP in the emergency department. So I was pretty happy. But I have to admit, I haven't received a raise at all in these past 12 years. So probably a lot of folks have caught up with me by now. It's pretty common amongst a lot of my physician colleagues as well as PA and NP colleagues to, share this concern about where healthcare is going and, what our salary outlooks are going to be. But as it is right now, I think for me, things are pretty stable. And on top of things, too, I think I'm pretty fortunate that I schedule a lot of my own ER shifts. I mean, I do have a clinic day in the wound clinic, and I also do hyperbarics, and I'm on call for that sometimes. But my schedule is pretty much how I make it, and it would be hard to give that up and then have to come back to it coming out of retirement and having to, kind of restart at the bottom again. But I know here's the thing. At some point, it's going to be time to walk away. I mean, I know it. And so the question is, how do you know when it's time? How do you know when it's time to walk away? I mean, assuming that health doesn't make up its mind for you, how do you know when it's time to just throw in the towel and call it quits? I remember watching another video on YouTube, and this was a really nice couple, and they moved into the Villages down in Florida. And I think they were both like retired teachers. And so they probably had a pension. They probably had a good, reasonable pension. Um, and at one point, I did comment on one of their videos, and they got back to me right away. I think I had said something along the lines of how envious I was of, their life, living down in the Villages in Florida. And, let me just say this. I don't think that would be for me. I don't think living in that sort of environment would really be what I want to do, and that's something I'll talk about probably in another video. But nevertheless, I mean, I thought it was really nice that they found a nice place to live. They were very happy where they were, and so I commented, I'm like, I'm really envious of the life that you've created in retirement. And I did tell them, I said, I just can't imagine doing it myself. I'm afraid of, losing that safety net of having a job. And they did respond to me right away by saying that they've never met anyone who wished they had worked longer. And I'm sure that that's true. So, I've often thought it would be a really good idea, a lot of fun to buy a small RV and just tour the country and see all the little towns that exist across the country and check out little diners and museums that are just kind of waiting to be discovered. And, would I be comfortable doing that? And here comes the fear thing again. I mean, for me, I've worked in emergency medicine or EMS, and I've been in the fire department. I've done that type of work since I was 17 years old. And it's become my identity. For better or worse, all of those jobs really revolved around, being in emergency situations. And I don't know if I can walk away from that. I know that when I got out of the fire department, when I got out of the volunteer fire department, I have missed it tremendously. The way things are with volunteer fire departments, anybody that's ever had any connection with volunteer fire departments, it's very political. And at some point, you do get tired of dealing with the politics of it. But I miss it very much. And, but you have to realize sometimes you just can't go back, So here's the thing, guys. I mean, tell me what you think. Tell me, how do you make the decision to retire? And if you did retire early, did you live with the fear that you might have to come back to work at some point? And were you forced to retire because of an age restriction at work or something along those lines? And, if so, let me know. Let me know in the comments what your thoughts are. Give me some advice. And to finish out, if you find this content interesting, please consider subscribing to my channel. This channel is not so much about, teaching healthcare to you. It's more or less, it's a guy who's been in healthcare his whole life and the things that are going on that revolve around it. And I think that's probably the direction that I tend to go in with this. So please let me know what's on your mind, and I'll talk to you in the next video. Thanks. Bye.